Morning, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, back down here at the Pathfinder Outdoor Classroom. We just finished an Appalachian Folk Skills class here over the weekend. It's about 30 projects in all, including some cooking projects in that class, all related to Appalachian mountain living, historic type skills. Now, one of the things that we did was we made candles, and we did the candle making a little bit different than you may have seen before. So I wanted to kind of show you that today and show you how that works. So these candles could be made with tallow that you harvested off the landscape, could be venison tallow, could also be beef tallow, could also be something like raccoon tallow. Anything that's not lard, it has to be tallow, or it can be beeswax. Now, beeswax works really well if you've got bees. We happen to have bees here at the school. One of my instructors is also a beekeeper. We have a lot of access to wax, so we use beeswax to make the candles this weekend, but I'm going to show you today how to make the same exact thing using tallow that I have. And I've saved this tallow back from last year, so we're going to use some of that tallow to make a candle today. What we're going to do is we're going to use a piece of wood like this, just a round, it's about 3 inches across here, and we're going to use this to make our mold for a square candle. And this will give you a pretty consistent candle that you could use over and over and over again. So what we're going to do first is we're going to make the mold, then we'll talk about making the wick, then we'll talk about the candle itself, so stay with me. We've got some pretty simple tools here. We've got our piece of wood, we've got a mallet, we've got a 510 Mora here, used for some finer work. We have a hatchet, and we have a saw. This is all we're going to need, along with some cordage, to make this happen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our axe, and we're going to split this piece of wood down the center, and I want to get this pith to be the center. So I'm going to rotate this until when I put my axe on there, that pith is center lined, not off to one side of the wood, but actually in the center of the wood. So I'll rotate that around until I get my axe to sit on that pith so that that's in the direct center of the wood. About like that. We want a good even split here. Now that we have that, we're going to kind of put that back together. We're going to split that one more time down the center here to give us 4 pieces. And now we have the 4 pieces that we need to make our mold. Now, we want to understand which is the top and bottom of these before we start doing any cutting. So let's put this thing back together the way it came apart and line everything up like this. And we'll use this as our top, okay? You can see the bottom is a little bit more jagged looking. So we should know that our most even cuts are the top. And I'll just kind of lay them out right here. Take them apart and lay them out here so that the tops are all facing up. Now we need to decide the depth of our candle. And that can be arbitrary, or you can measure it. I'm going to use something about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches is there, 4 inches is there. I don't really need more than a 4-inch candle. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 inches, and that's where I'm going to cut my piece. And I can eyeball that as about halfway. And so I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to cut just like this, about 2/3 of the way through the material. And I'm going to do the same thing on each one of these pieces at exactly that same height so that they line up well in the end. Okay, that gives us the start for what we want. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to line these back up again just to make sure that we've got everything where it's supposed to be. And so again, there's our top. So we've got all of our top edges facing up. Now, once we've got that done, we're going to begin to baton this off at an angle this way. So we're just going to stand it up. We're going to go about halfway through the material, understanding we cut 2/3, so we shouldn't run off anywhere doing this. And we're going to break those pieces out just like that, okay? And if they're not exactly where you want them, you can always shave a little bit down with your knife to the stop cut, but you're really only looking for about 1/3 there. And you can kind of change that up and shore that up. Once you get them all cut the first time, you get the first cut out of each one. Then you can kind of line things up and see where you're at. So I'm just kind of splitting them up, shoring them up, and laying them down beside each other. Now, again, we're going to put it back together and see where we're at. When we're done, what we should have is a square candle mold. Now what we need to do is lash this back together, and we can do that with bank line, any cordage we have, duct tape, whatever the case may be. We just want this to be good and tight. But before we do that, there's a couple things we want to do here. All right, so now I need a wick. This is just reverse wrap 2-ply cord, just been doubled up, so there's 4 strands of it here of jute twine. This could be tulip poplar bark. This could be anything you have that's natural material in your kit or off the landscape. I'm just using jute twine because it's something that we use a lot at the folk skills class this weekend. I had some laying around. You need that wick to be plenty long. What you want to do with that wick is you want to, when you put this back together, you want to trap that wick inside here somewhere. And it's okay to just carve a little piece off right here of the pith. Just get yourself a piece of this pith and carve it out a little bit. Just like that, just a little bit of a ramp there. And that's where you're gonna pinch that wick. So just drop that wick in that pinch right there, that pinch point. Now holding on to this, I'm just gonna take a 1-inch roll of duct tape here for this demo. So I'll do one at the top, and I'll come down here to the bottom, I'll do the same thing. Just like this. Yank it good and tight all the way around. Overlap it a couple inches, tear it off. And then I'll put one in the middle. Okay, now we've got all that stuff done. We've got a heat source here that we're gonna use to heat up our tallow. I've got some tallow in here. This is old raccoon tallow from last year's trapping class. I also have some raw beeswax here. You can collect this off the landscape as well. You can find a hive. So we're gonna put some of that in, just like this. That will help stiffen up that tallow. Tallow gets solid at room temperature, but it also is a lot softer than beeswax. This is unfiltered and rendered beeswax here that I've got setting aside just in case we don't have enough volume here. All right, here we go. Now it's going to take a little while to melt this stuff down. Again, we haven't rendered this beeswax or anything that's in this out of this hive, so it may take a little bit for it to settle down into liquid and then melt down too. Like I said, we brought a couple extra pieces here out of a mold of unfiltered beeswax just in case we don't have enough in here, but I think we do. We got to turn the heat down just a little bit. We don't want this thing to catch fire. Don't worry about all this wax that's spilling. We can clean that up later. That's not a problem at all. Just trying to get the mold filled to the top. We'll worry about trimming everything afterwards. We can melt all that wax that's on that stump right back down. So that's not a big deal at all. Right, so take this off. And now we can kind of separate this. There we go. There's our candle right there. There's one side of the mold. Second side of the mold, you can see there's a little bead comb in there. Not a big deal. And there we go. And there's our square candle. Now we can just trim our wick and really light this bad boy up. Get our scissors out here. Trim this off the bottom. Trim it off close at the top. Just like that. Now, you should be ready to go. Thing burning good there. It'll take it a minute here. It'll get going. There we go. One beeswax and tallow candle ready to be used. All right, guys, I appreciate you joining me today for this quick video on how to make a candle mold and then pour a candle from tallow or wax or a combination of the two. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for school, for family, and for business. We hope to see you at a class real soon, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.